startups in Europe especially. Big question, when do we come to America and why, right? He started multiple companies in Europe and in the US. He's now an investor, runs a fund in New York that angel invests in companies in US and Europe. And he spends a lot of his gracious time helping companies think about general strategy, but also when to come to the US and why, very important. So please give a nice round warm applause to Evan Nisselson, partner in LDV Capital.
I'm very happy to be back here again. This is my third time in Kyiv, and I hope to come back often. I've been an entrepreneur for 19 years. Some successes, I was part of a company that went public in the mid-90s in Silicon Valley. Part of other companies that made millions of dollars in revenue and then unfortunately failed. So I've had part of the successes and part of the failures. And what I love doing is helping entrepreneurs avoid the mistakes that I've made and hopefully do the things that I've done well. Now I've got a $1 million fund that invests in early stage companies. Love investing in European companies because I think there's brilliant talent here. I get in very early, 25 to 50K, seed or A round, and usually in verticals of digital imaging and video, which is what I know, and business-to-business SaaS platforms. So if anybody has any of those companies here, I'd love to talk to you, and you can find me afterward. He's raising his hand already, so we'll talk afterward. Fantastic. And for examples, I've got investments in Croatia, Stockholm, one in Canada, and 3 in the US. We've only started about a year ago, and we hope to do about 20 more investments. In addition to the investing, I love, as Vitaly said, is helping entrepreneurs. So I'm a mentor at 500 Startups, Mind the Bridge, Founders Institute, and several others around Europe. Let's go to the next. So the most important thing for all of us is to understand what's our goal. We can't succeed every single day unless we focus on what the goal is. So this is my goal. These are also my photographs. I'm a professional photographer since I was probably 13 years old. Number 1, be creative, which you can't see. Hard to see, but be creative. Number 2, solve problems. Okay? The most important thing is how do we solve problems? In order to find clients, if you're not solving the problems, you've got no business. The next is have fun. If we're not having fun every single day, life is too short. So if you're not enjoying what you're doing, you should leave the company, you should leave whatever you're doing. If you're not happy in a relationship, we deal with this every single day. Then the most important thing on top of that is, how do we make money while we sleep? Okay? That, in the end, and I love doing all of them simultaneously. So be creative, have fun, solve problems, and make money while we sleep. That's the ideal SaaS platform or technology business. You build it, you solve the problems, you go to bed, and you wake up and you have new clients in the morning. That's what I like doing. Because you can't work only 9 to 5 in the tech world. So let's talk about our subject for today. Everybody asks, when do I go to the United States? We want to move immediately to the United States. And many people fail and get distracted in thinking we have to go to the United States immediately. We're going to go raise money and then go to the United States. It doesn't work like that. So what I like to do is talk about case studies. I don't have all the answers. A lot of experience, a lot of successes and failures. But what I like to do is, in order to understand how best to succeed, we've got to figure out what trends, what other companies have done to do what we want to do, okay? So I emailed a bunch of my friends in order to figure out this question, or multiple questions: if, why, when, how, and where. The goal, like I just mentioned, is not making money. Not raising money, right? It's just a means to an end. Most importantly, if you guys can build a business that makes money and you don't have to raise money ever and keep 100% of the company and then sell the company, that's better. I'm an investor. I'd rather you be successful and happy. But the goal is not raising capital. The goal is figuring out what you need to build your business, okay? And here are several case studies that we're going to talk about from Estonia, Sweden, Czech Republic, Slovenia, Croatia, etc. We're going to go through 5 quick case studies, which there's a lot of text, but you can read or listen to me. But I wanted you to be able to see timelines of these companies. Here are 6 conclusions, I think, that are the key points in order to focus on. 1, focus on local customer validation. That can be here in Ukraine, in Russia, somewhere in Europe. You are here. You know the people near you. Focus on creating validation. You don't want to build a business and try to communicate in another language that you don't know. It's hard enough building a business where you are. Join a local accelerator and/or find local angel investors. Very, very important, because they will then validate you. Even for me, being in New York, if you don't have any local investors or local accelerator support that validates you, then I'm going to say, if you can't get local support, I'm not going to believe that you can get support anywhere. US growth opportunities. So what does that mean? As you're getting local validation, if customers are buying your products in the United States, that's validation that you have a market there. If you're saying nobody's using our products in the United States, it's harder to validate to an investor that it's an opportunity. And then in the end, the last two things very important: positive growth trend and the DNA of a hustling entrepreneur is the most important thing, because we're betting on, we're investing in the people and the business second. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, Apiary, and I'm going to try to read this because there's a reflection. Apiary is a company in the Czech Republic, is a developer tools platform helping companies build web APIs. They've got really deep tech expertise. Remember, every one of these, I'm going to put the team as one of the most important aspects. They were in Springboard Accelerator, which became Techstars. Validation, check. Number 2. They launched an invite-only platform. And then, most importantly, they found angels with domain expertise. If you're building a tech platform, they brought in Esther Dyson, who's a famous angel investor in the US, and the co-founder of Heroku. So these are people that know the industry and are betting on the industry. They keep growing their product, and then they raised additional capital in the United States from Flybridge, Baseline, and Credo. You see, it's a trend. Don't try to go to step number 5 before you do 1, 2, and 3, okay? So why raise money in the US? The CEO said, winning over the West Coast, meaning having tech companies in the West Coast use their platform, means the rest of the world will follow. Found local angels and investors to make those introductions. If you're going to come up to me and say, hey, I've got a great company, it'll be more valuable. I'm not going to know who you are, right? Even if you raise your hands, great, come up to me. But even better, if somebody that I know that you know, if you know Vito, and he comes up and says, you're great, I'm going to say, okay, validation, check. It's not just building that direct relationship, it's other people. Like if you go and meet a woman or a man at a bar, say, I'm the best person, you should marry me. Which is better, that or their best friend telling that person that I'm great and that she should marry me? That's going to be more valuable. It's just simple common sense. His advice is find local people, ideally founders, angels, investors who support you. Have them introduce you. So it's not just my thinking, it's theirs. The next one, Farmeron. It's a company in Croatia. I'm one of their investors. They build data analytics for dairy farmers. What's great about this? Domain expertise, they were farmers. How can you can't get more domain expert than actually farmers building technology for their own industry, okay? They created in 2001, how many here know a website called AngelList, angel.co, okay? If you do not know AngelList, you will by the end of today. Make sure you go and figure it out. It's a website that connects startups, entrepreneurs with investors all over the world. My good friend founded this platform, Naval, and we lost our presentation. So I have it in my head. I'll keep talking until they find the presentation. So he, in Croatia, doesn't know any investors. He submitted to AngelList and found Dave McClure from 500 Startups, found Seedcamp, and then joined Seedcamp, and Seedcamp invested. So not only did he have domain expertise, join an accelerator, and then we raised money from SoftTech Ventures in Silicon Valley. About 50% of his customers were in Silicon Valley and in the United States. The big farms are in the US. So then he had the validation for that. The next company I want to talk about is TransferWise. I'll go from my memory. And TransferWise is a peer-to-peer money transfer platform, okay? The team is the first person from Skype, the first employee from Skype. So if you're going to build a peer-to-peer platform, and you're telling me I'm the first person of Skype, I'm going to believe you that you've got expertise building peer-to-peer platforms. His co-founder is an expert in the banking industry. Can we flip that slide to, there we go. Okay, cool. I'll go back to those other ones. So TransferWise is the one I'm talking about. They founded the company in 2010, launched 2011, joined Seed Camp. So the interesting thing here is they joined an accelerator, even though the two founders had a lot of network with investors. Why? It's validation. They also leveraged that network to raise more capital. They raised a seed round from AddVenture's index. And here's interesting. So we keep talking about domain expertise investors. Okay. Max Levchin became an investor and he founded PayPal. Another check mark. Domain expertise. They're hard to get these people. But if you're building something in a payment industry, I want to know that the angel investors are experts in the payment industry. Okay? Their next round of funding was led by Peter Thiel, one of the other co-founders of PayPal. So if you look at the people, additionally, angel investors Errol from Wanga and Betfair, some of the biggest payment companies are now investing in these guys. So think about your business and think about who are experts. If you can convince them, you're going to build trust. If you can convince them, other investors will be interested as well. Why invest in the US? They say, better investors, better terms. So when you're ready, that's their perspective. How? By showing great customer satisfaction and more than 20% month-over-month growth is what they did. So once again, it's much easier for you to convince me to invest in you if your customers are paying for your service and going up to the right. It might seem obvious, but it's better to show traction before you start trying to raise capital, especially in the United States. Advice, have a great growth story. Very simple. So we're going to go back to narrative. Another example, out of Stockholm. It's a wearable camera that takes a photograph every 30 seconds and automatically gets published to the web. So will people be wearing these? We don't know. Investors don't know. They first got 50,000 euros from the local government. You can all find local money. They didn't go try to raise money in the United States first or in Europe. They got it from the local bank. And then 500,000 from Passion Capital and local angel investors. I mean, this might seem like it's exactly what I said earlier, but this is the trend. This is how it works. And then they launched a Kickstarter program. People started paying for their product before it was ready to be used. The best way to validate a business is if somebody pays for you to build it in advance. They've already given you money. They want that. That's the best validation that any startup could have. And I was actually talking to one of my friends last night, Mike, and he said, everybody loves it. They want it. I was like, are they paying? He says they will. But the more they pay in advance, they got $700,000 of pre-orders before they even built a product. Then they keep on raising money, and then raised from True Ventures in Silicon Valley when they had about $1 million in pre-order. So real big validation. We invested in the convertible note round and in the A round. And they're going to start shipping this month, which is about 8 months later since I invested and about 4 months since the Series A. And they still haven't shipped a product. That's the best validation that you can have. Why? Because many of their customers, 50% of their customers were in the United States. The reason investors in the US want that, they want to know that that big market has validated your business. Once again, not every business has to go to the US. But if it's right for your business and it'll help you grow, figure out how to build the validation to get there. So what's interesting here is they were about to go raise money. They were about to go on a whole tour. Frequently, you go try to meet with as many VCs as possible. But Kickstarter and other platforms is a great way to actually market your product before you raise money. True Ventures found them, had meetings with them before they even started raising money, did a great deal. They have a great reputation, and then they raised that money. Next, GrabCAD, Estonia. Great company in Estonia. So I'm picking from different countries, okay? And I can't wait until next year we add more countries from the Ukraine. okay, and from Russia and this whole region. And I guarantee it'll happen if you guys are determined to make it happen. So they raised locally about 300,000 in the Baltics area and the Estonia area. They joined Seed Camp, launched a beta product, and then they said, hey, you know what? We're actually going to join another accelerator in the US. And they went to Boston and joined Techstars. Some people might say, and this is, remember, I don't want to give up another 6 or 10% of my company. Okay? But would you rather have 1% of a company that's worth $1 billion or 100% of a company worth 0? Okay? It's obvious the answer. But remember, if you keep building value and you have equity, you don't need 100%. You need the right people helping you make that company succeed. They then raised money from Matrix and Atlas, again from Atlas and CRV, and they've gone from 2,000 users, to 950,000 in the last several months. Why did they go to the US? To be close to the ecosystem, smart money, and customers. How? One word: hustle. Never take no for an answer. Okay, TransferWise we talked about. Zamanta, one more company. Recommends your content to a diverse network of engaged communities around the world, bringing new readers to your site. 2 really great tech and product guys out of Slovenia. They get local money from Seed Camp. Once again, you see the progression that each one of these companies are doing. Some can do it without the accelerators, but why not if you can leverage their network, if they can help you build your business? Then they raised money from Union Square Ventures in the United States because a majority of their customers were in the US. And their advertisers are in the US. Why? Because the US will ultimately be our market, and we wanted to be closer to customers' advertisers. How? We were meeting VCs at events, just like this. But remember, don't go up to a VC and say, will you invest in my company the first time you meet them? Because we have no relationship. But if you come up to me and say, hey, you know, I saw your profile, you like telemark skiing, you love hanging out in Italy, I was from Italy, or I like skiing, just build a discussion, tell me about your business, and then keep in touch. It's amazing that a majority of the people that I give my email address to never email me. Why is that? They only email when they want something. If I'm looking for digital imaging and video technologies and you have a friend, the best thing you can do is help me, and then I'm going to want to help you. And you build a relationship so that I trust you in the future and I can recommend you to somebody else or maybe invest myself. Here's a very key point. His advice, this is Bastian, the CEO of Zamanta. You need to tell your idea to 1,000 people. Hopefully 200 will be relevant and you'll get 1 or 2 people interested in your company. If you tell me nobody likes my company, I'm going to say, well, how many have you asked? If you've only asked 10 or 12 people, you haven't tried enough. You have to talk to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. Another friend of mine was raising money about 10 years ago, and he had to meet with 95 venture capitalists to find 1. That's the percentage ratio here. Okay, real quick summary. This is to recap the case studies. If you're going to eventually raise in the US, you need to have the CEO DNA, local validation, local investors, a big market in the US. Why? Not because you want to raise capital, but you need it to expand. You need it to hire people in the US, or even think about going to the UK. It's the same model. If you're going to go to someplace else, you either have revenue from your business to hire, or you need to expand, and you have an idea and traction that validates your business. When? After validated, customer growth. Where? Go where your customers are. Everybody says they want to go to San Francisco. And I say, why? Well, that's where everything's happening. I say, well, where's your customers? Oh, all of our customers are in Mexico. Don't go to San Francisco. Go to Mexico. All of our customers are in Chicago, in the middle of the US. Go there. Go where your customers are, or go where your tech partners are. How? Target investor with domain knowledge. And you're going to say, okay, how do I do that? Every investor 99% of all investors have websites. They have a cookie trail on the internet. You can find everything about them. If you come up to me and say, Evan, I've got this great company that is in the drug pharmaceutical business. I don't know anything about drugs. I mean, legal drugs. And so don't come trying to pitch me an idea that I don't have an idea. Or you could say, hey, Evan, I know you don't know the pharmaceutical business, but do you know anybody that does? That's a good question. So just think about it, and before you go and pitch somebody, ask them, what do you invest in? How much do you invest? Do you ever invest in Ukraine? Would you invest in Ukraine? Those are very important questions. Here's the reality. Only 1% of everybody will raise capital. I hope all of you are in that 1%, but realize it's only 1%. And that's critical. It shouldn't scare you. It's just reality. Okay. Here's one of the things that helps me, in my mind, succeed and live as an entrepreneur. Okay, hustle equals, when anybody tells you no, how many in the audience has heard somebody tell them no? They can't do something. Raise their hands. And okay, so who has never heard the word no regarding something they've wanted to do? Raise your hands. Okay. No, but you've never heard somebody tell you can't do something. What's that? Lots of folks. So everybody here should raise their hand. How many people have heard the word no? Okay, now you guys are awake. In the top up there, anybody awake? Okay, look at you guys are alive. Fantastic. Okay, for me, the word no does not exist in my vocabulary. I don't like the word. I hate the word. It doesn't exist. When somebody says no to me, that means I don't care if it's a girlfriend, my mother, or somebody else that says you can't do that. I was like, oh, I can't do that? Well, maybe I haven't given you enough information, or maybe I haven't validated it yet. No really means not now. Okay, I don't mean in 2 minutes. So the question I was like, okay, no, you don't want to buy my software. I'm sorry, why not? Could I build it in a way that you'd like? Oh yeah, I want A, B, C, D. Oh, I will come back and talk to you in 3 months when I have A, B, and C, D. And you go back and talk to them. Investors will say no 99.9999% of the time. But then you ask the investor, what would help you say yes? Same thing with a girlfriend or a boyfriend. What would I have to do to say yes to go on a date with you? It's the same thing. So always think about how you can get from the no, which is really not now, to yes or maybe. If you go from no to maybe, that's progress. And you could say, cool, go have a drink, and now figure out how you can get maybe to a yes. Or figure out who's going to help you get from maybe to a yes. So never accept no. Of course, don't be rude. I mean, I can get myself in trouble because I'm going to get off the stage and they're going to say no to something I asked for, but there's always a path to yes. Okay, conclusion. This is one of the most important things. We got to help each other. We can't win a war by ourselves. And so I'm going to give you a challenge. Critical in Silicon Valley and growing around the world is, it's a very give-forward community. People help each other without asking for anything. In Europe, frequently, I say, I'm happy to help you, and they say, what do you want from me? So nothing. One day in the future, you'll help me. So the more you help somebody, and if you leave today, I'm going to challenge all of you. If you leave today and do not help one person, just one person today, then you've failed yourself and failed all of us. The ecosystem cannot grow unless everybody helps each other. And don't ask for something in return. It'll come back to you the more you help other people. And this is one of the core factors of Silicon Valley and other ecosystems. For this ecosystem to succeed, you all have to help each other. And I'm going to ask you later if I see you, how many people have you helped today? And if you tell me nobody, I'm going to say, I can't help you then because you're not helping anybody else. It's very simple, and it will work. solve problems, be creative, have fun, improve the world we live in, make money while we sleep, carpe diem. And on that note, my mantra, love the living of life, my Twitter, my URL for all my information, and I've got 6, 5, 4, 3 seconds, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you very much and have a great show.